remember to communicate about yourself with clarity. It will really make a difference. And it also increases your confidence and the confidence other people have in you.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us is the CEO, Tissa Richards. She is an innovative inventor. She has worked with a lot of software companies, sold them, scaled them. She's done a little bit of everything. Talking about her new book, Resilience. We're so excited to have her on. Tissa, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Yes, it's so good to see you. You're in a much colder place than I am.
Yes, I'm a bit jealous of your temperature right now. However, so excited to have you on. We always like to ask our entrepreneurs, tell us about your journey. What were you doing before and how did that kind of bring you into what you're doing today?
Absolutely. So as you said, I'm a repeat software founder. So I unintentionally kind of found myself creating software products, creating this IP portfolio, raising money, and then realizing it was just not fulfilling anymore. But taking all those lessons, especially winding down my last company and moving into what I'm doing today, which is running a leadership company where we really help leaders and teams and organizations figure out who they are, how they create value, and particularly this year with the new book I have coming up, really helping them be a lot more resilient and sort of moving from burnout to thriving. So it was kind of a journey of being an entrepreneur, being in their shoes, and just knowing how to really help people and teams thrive.
That is fantastic because I know it's a huge issue, having burnout, kind of losing your mindset, your focus, and it affects the team and the sales and revenue that a business is trying to generate. So with your past clients, can you go through some of the people that you've worked with, what things they were struggling with, the dream outcome you were able to achieve for them?
Yeah, and I think on this topic in particular, one of the things I realized was that if you are the leader, you're the business owner, the entrepreneur, if you're not thriving, your team is not thriving and your company is not thriving. And it's really easy to think, I'll just keep grinding and eventually I'll get back to a full cup. But you can't do that. When your cup's empty, it's empty. And then you start to see that cascading effect. Your team is really burned out. You're a little more short-tempered. You're not as innovative. The gears get gummed up. So I think realizing that we're all really dealing with so much uncertainty, so much disruption, this work-life virtual hybrid thing. And I'm seeing with so many people, I work with a lot of really senior leaders and their teams, and they're just sort of saying, I'm not thriving. I know my team is not thriving. Help us. And so helping that in a lot of different ways, we just see some really quantifiable and then qualitative results.
That is fantastic. When it comes to the line of work that you're in, was this something that you've seen any big shift in the workplace since COVID? You mentioned this hybrid back to office sort of thing. I think the workplace is changing. The workforce maybe has a bit more leverage today than they did at least 5-10 years ago. What changes have you seen either since COVID and just in general? Where should be the focus for a lot of these workplaces? What should they be doing to retain and attract talent?
Yeah, I think there's really two questions in there, right? The first is what has changed? Why I think are people struggling a little bit more? And then what can we do? That first question is really interesting because immediately after COVID, there was this feeling of we have no delineation between work and home and things like that. And that's probably still true, but there's a lot of uncertainty. Just think about how many people are anxious about the economy, about sort of global, whether it's the climate, global politics, global conflicts. But then there's things like AI or emerging technologies. I mean, so many people I talk to are thinking, if I don't know how to use it, what will my job be? Or there's a lot of disruption that has happened and people don't know what it's going to mean for them. And when we don't have a lot of clarity and context, our brains don't like uncertainty. There's so much research on that. So uncertainty creates a lot of stress and anxiety, and you're not at your best when you're very stressed and uncertain. Then you have the fact that so many companies lately have gone through so many reorganizations. You saw big companies, think about Salesforce, and there was huge layoffs, and then there was rehires. So there's this really kind of shifting sands of, do I even feel safe in this job? And I don't mean psychologically safe. I mean, literally, will this job be here tomorrow? So there's a lot going on, and we're expecting more and more from people, right? So we're expecting the KPIs. When I hear from people, it's like I'm expected to do so much more with so much less. I'm burned out at home, and I'm taking care of kids and family members of all different generations. And that's another thing. There's so many generations in the workforce now. So everybody's communicating in different ways. There's just a lot of people who I think are running on fumes. And there's a quantifiable impact people's productivity and engagement goes down, their interest levels go down, there's that sense of psychological safety goes down. And then, of course, the company's performance will go down. And this is going to impact everybody.
Yes, absolutely. It's a cascading effect. You bring up so many really amazing points about the fear and anxiety that was instilled and the uncertainty that people have within the workforce. Back in the day, we used to have high school education could afford you a job with a pension that could be a single income household. Fortunately, today we have to work two jobs, multiple jobs, or get creative and find opportunities out there. But it's something that we're just kind of having to deal with. But I think the silver lining, the end of the day, we need some of what your book is talking about, the resilience. How do we stay motivated? How do we stay resilient in such an uncertain climate?
This is so interesting, right? Because think about the traditional definition of resilience, which is the ability to literally bounce back from something and go back to your normal life. Well, the only certainty now is uncertainty. What did they used to say? Like death and taxes. Those are still certainties. But now we know that the level of uncertainty and disruption is just going to continue and probably accelerate. And I think that definition is not just outdated, but it's actually really dangerous because it makes us feel like we are the problem. I'm not bouncing back. What's wrong with me? I'm burned out. What's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with you. The definition, no one's ever sat us down and said, here's how to be resilient. And I really think of it as a muscle. We all have it. If you have ever done anything in your life, you're resilient, right? Just something simple like you're late, getting the kids to school, you burned dinner, it doesn't matter. You're resilient. If you've gotten through the tiniest things to the biggest things, you're already resilient. To me, it's redefining that definition so that you realize you have it. You need to identify it, surface it, really activate it as a muscle. And that's for every single day. So you know that it's how you are going to respond to what life throws at you. And it's a very intentional response. It's how you're going to sort of look at whatever's happening and say, here's the values that I'm going to look at this as a lens through. Here's how I'm going to replace a sort of visceral reaction with a much more calm and values-based response. Here's how I'm going to sort of what I think is a challenge into an opportunity. And there's really ways to sort of turn these into tools for yourself. And when you do this, everything changes. You realize that you are in control of your resilience. And this is at the individual level, at home, at work, it's at the team level, it's at the whole organizational level. And it actually becomes this really incredible competitive advantage.
That is fantastic. If we could only take those failures and missed opportunities and turn them into life lessons. We talked a little bit about that before when it comes to trying something new. There's this uncertainty and doubt that we have. A lot of entrepreneurs, business owners struggle with this. What should people be doing at the individual level now to have that different mindset? We talked before about the reaction, being curious before you're furious. How do we kind of develop that emotional intelligence that we need to be better communicators and I think just be more resilient overall?
Yeah. And Chris, I love that we're talking about this because just knowing that there's a difference between a reaction and a response is the first step. And it's so much healthier. So when you react to something, so much goes through your body. Think of the fight or flight reaction. So it's a cascade of physiological, right? So there's these hormones that go through you, adrenaline and cortisol. It's your body getting ready to protect yourself. But that was back when we literally had to physically protect our lives. If you get an email or if you get a text from your mother-in-law or whatever it is, that's not a life-threatening situation, but it still activates the same fight or flight reaction. And when you do that over and over, you're literally training your pathways to eventually burn you out at an adrenal level, at an emotional level, and we are burned out. So the first thing is just knowing I don't need to react. I'm going to separate my emotions from my response and start to ask yourself, what values, what is this activating? What is this challenging? How can I think of this as fight or flight or do what's right? And what's right for you, it's what's right for your family, it's what's right for your team. That's just a place to start. I literally have mine up on a Post-it note on my desk. It's like, I'm going to respond this way. Such a simple place to start.
I love that. Earlier, before we started recording, you told me, so what? And this was kind of to develop what your business is, maybe your mission statement, your elevator pitch. Who cares about who you are and what you do? So what? And I think that really helped to refine the communication piece. of who you are and what you do. Can you tell us more about how So What came about and how it can help us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I will never be able to escape the two words that I say all the time. But if you think about how we tend to talk about ourselves, we tend to just vomit up everything we've ever done or been or things like that. And it's any kind of communication, even if you're talking about your team or if you're raising money for your company or if you're doing 3-year fiscal planning, doesn't matter. We tend to just put all the things in there and we expect our listener or our receiver to parse through it. And we think our job's done. We put all the information in. That person can think about it. But we have so much in our heads, there's so much cognitive load that it's our job as the communicator to get to the so what? What should that person take away? Because if we throw it over the fence and figure they'll sort it out, one of two things will happen. Either they're going to take away the wrong message, which means we don't control our narrative, or they're just going to go, I'm so overwhelmed. There's so much I've got to do. I'm just going to tune out. And now you've lost the opportunity to communicate. So you've got to get to the so what, not what, how, when, where, but get to the why that person should care. So when people talk to me, I say it with kindness and love, but I'm always like, everything you've just told me, so what? So I'll give you the so what of what I just told you. When you get to the so what, people will remember you. They will talk about you. You will get bigger deals. You will be seen as a better communicator. There are benefits to this, and it's a cognitive kindness.
I love that approach. And earlier before, when we were talking about communication styles and how we perceive situations, our attitudes and our beliefs, I shared being objective, free from bias. And you had a better term for it was pragmatic, the pragmatism, which is dealing with things sensibly and realistically. And I think that in itself can be such a shift in mindset to try to have that different lens. I think it's a huge benefit for a lot of people to look at things in this way.
Yeah, I think it's just putting a little distance between the emotion. I told it to you because I got feedback after a keynote. Someone sent me a message and he's like, I loved the thought leadership, the big ideas, but I really thought you were the most aggressively pragmatic person I've ever met. And I thought, I'm going to choose, this is not an insult. This is actually really cool.
What a compliment.
It is a compliment because you get straight to the point. Just be aggressively pragmatic about the world. Don't take things personally. Get to the so what. And when we've done that with companies and with teams, if you can find your so what, people will look at you and go, I want to hear more. It really works.
That's what it's all about. Everything that you've done leading up to this point has created this incredible success for yourself. Earlier, we were talking a bit about what success you had in terms of building relationships. How do you handle working in the B2B realm? Are you doing a lot of LinkedIn? Is it cold outreach? How are you building these relationships and working with such fantastic companies?
I'm so lucky. I have been, in addition to becoming aggressively pragmatic, I have been called a curator of humans. And I think that where is all your social and professional capital? It's in your existing network. And there is nothing that excites me more than, this is why I asked you, tell me who you want to meet. I get really excited leaning in and going, where am I going to put Chris in my head so that next week or the week after I'll be talking to someone and go, whoa, stop talking. I really want to introduce you to him. Because when you are seen as a great connector, you're a great listener, you are sort of fostering these connections and it comes back to you tenfold. So my entire business is referral because I love to connect people. And I see so many people trying to get their next role or they're trying to get on a board and they're cold calling people. And I think, first of all, that's not awful. But second of all, why don't you start where people already love you and are your evangelists? You have to nurture those relationships. And it's not hard to nurture people who already love you and want the best for you.
Right, absolutely. Now, what are you most excited for leading into 2025? You've been doing a lot of keynotes. You have a book coming out. Is this kind of everything you're focusing on, making sure it's a successful launch?
Yeah, I'm super excited. So the book will be out in early Q4 2025 about rethinking resilience. I'm doing the keynote that goes along with it. It has been really well received, really focused on just organizations and teams that are really aiming to sort of increase that engagement, help teams through disruption and uncertainty, and help people move from burnout to thriving. And I'm doing a lot of workshops around that and the executive advisory work that I do. So I work one-on-one and in small groups with senior leaders, and it's really meaningful and fun work.
I love that. It makes a big difference when the work that we do solves a lot of problems. You can see the results that people have and they're thankful. And I think it's a testament to the work that you do to be 100% referral based. It shows that you're doing great work. They love to talk about you and they can't wait to tell their friend or their colleague the next business about what you do, which is exciting. Where can people find out more about you online and get connected with you?
Yeah, it's very straightforward. It's www.tissarichards.com. Actually, I realized I put it as my LinkedIn or as my Zoom name, or LinkedIn. So if you want more information about keynotes or workshops, just reach out there.
I love that. And we'll have the links available down in the description and show notes for everybody to get connected with Tissa here. Now, is there any last words of advice, imparting wisdom to our audience here that you want to share with them? Just want to open up the floor to you.
You put me on the spot because we talked about so much today. I'm going to two things. The first is just remember to communicate about yourself with clarity. It will really make a difference. And it also increases your confidence and the confidence other people have in you. And the second, when it comes to resilience, you have it already. So if you're feeling a little bit beaten down, you're not broken. Our definition of resilience is really broken. And know that you got to find it. It's already there. We just need to bring it up and activate it. And there's a couple of tools that you can do, but that knowledge alone is really helpful to know that you can get through anything, big or small.
I absolutely love that. Thank you for all the tips and tricks. If you need any advice for a funny meme to add to your keynote presentation, you could always add in the office meme of Kevin, where he says, "Why say many word when few word do trick?" And that can be a great transition.
Where he drops the chili on the floor. That's a moment where you need resilience, but I think either would be great.
I think it can be all based off office memes. It's very universal.
Yeah.
Tissa, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Congratulations on all your past success and really looking forward to everything that you do in the future. Congratulations.
Chris, this was such a fun conversation. I really appreciate it.
Me too. Thanks so much.